Hello, world, and welcome to the Last Comic Book Standing podcast. Are you a casual fan of comics? Maybe you find it a little overwhelming to walk into a shop and pick out what to read. Maybe you like the movies, you're familiar with the characters, but don't really know much about comic books. Maybe you don't know where to start, what issues to pick, what characters or storylines to read. And that's where I come in. I do the reading, so you can sit back, watch, and enjoy the show. Let's get started. So, with this episode, we kick off a brand new run in the X-Men comics with X-Men #1. This story takes place right after the recent House of X, Powers of X storyline, where in case you missed it, you can watch episodes 1 through 12 on this channel to catch up to speed. However, you can pick up right here as well, whether you've been following along or just joining us. In this cover, we see a few of the members of the X-Men team. Wolverine, Rachel Summers, aka Marvel Girl, next to him. They're using her alias Prestige for this run. We see Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, in the center. Jean Grey behind him in the gold mask and green dress. We see Nathan Summers, son of Cyclops, also known as Cable, next to her. And behind them in the center is Vulcan, aka Gabriel Summers. The guy with the energy waves coming from his chest is Alex Summers, brother to Cyclops and Vulcan. He's known as Havoc. And on the far left of the cover is Corsair, aka Chris Summers, father of the three Summers brothers, grandfather to both Cable and Marvel Girl, Prestige. We start with a flashback of a session between Cyclops and Professor X, where the professor is asking young Scott to open his eyes. Scott's too afraid of hurting someone because this is before he knew that the special sunglasses that Professor has made for him would help him control his optical beams. Finally, Scott is convinced to do so, and it's a quick glimpse into their earlier interactions and how through Professor's coaching, he learned to accept, control, and fall in love with his powers. And it's a brave new world. Mutants around the world are flocking to the island nation of Krakoa for safety, security, and to be part of the first mutant society. Standing between that sacred land and the human world are the heroes of mutantdom, the X-Men. Now we're back in present day, and we see Storm and Cyclops are in the middle of a battle in a base belonging to a group called the Orcus. They're the ones responsible for creating all these sentinel machines that hunt down mutants and kill them. We see them fighting their way through the forces. We see Cyclops save Storm from an attack behind her, and because she's not on her A game, she tells Cyclops she's tired. She's like, I don't know what I'm more tired of though, these things trying to kill us or the people responsible for making them. They make their way to a corridor where they see an entire squadron of these machines moving down the hall, and Cyclops takes a perfect shot and bounces it off the ceiling to hit them all with his blast. As they're returning fire, Storm fries them all with her powers of lightning. All the while, they're telling each other how much mutants have endured and how this was their chance for huge progress in the fight against these machines. Storm adds that she's noticing these machines are staying calm and collected. They're not scattering, but are staying in tight formation. That's when Cyclops notices it must be the main lab of the base and sends a signal for reinforcements. And that's when we see the mighty Magneto rip the ceiling wide open and tells his daughter Polaris that when he hovers down to the ground, he doesn't want to feel any rubble or any body under his feet. She opens the floor and they all go right through. There's one more door they need to get through, and Magneto tells Cyclops to stand aside while he rips that one open also. Magneto is just the man at this point. He's basically a god now. That's how powerful he is. Inside the door, there's this guy called Dr. Mars who's extracting something, and he's being warned that the X-Men are almost through the door. They're basically refusing to go down without a fight and have no plans to surrender. So this Dr. Mars begins to inject himself with some sort of serum that turns him and the entire team into giant apes that begin to attack the X-Men team as they enter the hangar. Once again, it's Magneto to the rescue. He tells the team to go find what they're looking for, and he'll take care of these basically gorillas on steroids himself. The team makes it to a room where dozens of mutants are being kept in these containment chambers, and for the first time up close, we finally get to see how they're able to use these Krakoan flowers to open up these portal gates, which they can use to return to the island immediately. They notice one of the vessels is unique from the others and decide to open it. Out comes this girl that's really crazy looking. Her skin is pitch black, but she's semi-translucent. She cryptically tells Storm and Polaris that they cannot see her. And Storm's like, yeah, I can. You're right in front of me. But Polaris detects that she's a superior being, definitely more than a human. She goes on to tell them that she feels weak and was born before her time because there are wild gods running loose in the world. Magneto joins them and tells the girl that the only gods are the ones in the room with her. Cyclops is impressed that he handled all those juiced up apes on his own that quickly. Then suddenly, the girl vanishes. Magneto wants to go after her, but Cyclops objects, saying that they should leave it up to the Krakoan Council to decide what to do about the girl, and that their priority should be taking the rescued mutants back to the island. As they're returning to the island, Cyclops is requesting for medical evaluations to be conducted on the mutants they saved, and we get to meet Dr. Reyes, who tells him she'll take care of it as they have a few healers and a few telepaths ready to help. Here we see a moment between Storm and Dr. Reyes where she wants to stay to observe two specific young mutants get evaluated because she's picking up a lot of energy coming from them. And Cyclops is concerned that she needs rest. But Storm tells him that she is tired of the constant fighting, but that helping out other mutants is something that she'll never run out of energy for. Storm's a real trooper. Suddenly, people start shouting out for Magneto. Magneto enters like a king returning from battle, and all the young mutants are pulling on him and asking him if they can go fight with him next time. He tells them, look, I spent my life fighting and wasted many years doing so recklessly, but now that we have this island, you're safe. This is all we need. But what if the mutants attack the island? To which Magneto replies they won't have to run. That humans will run from him, and that little crowd forming around him keeps cheering him on. Polaris and Cyclops are talking while all this is going on, and she tells him that her father's almost rejuvenated by all this. To which Cyclops responds that this is what they've been waiting on for a long time. This almost rock star, godlike status. Cyclops then invites Polaris back to his home, and as they walk through the portal gates, he basically shares some thoughts that he has on his son Cable and how much he suffered and endured in the world. It almost made Cyclops give up on life, on his goals, on his mission. And we witness this moment between Cyclops and Polaris that has me thinking, is there something going on between these two that we don't know about yet? Because Cyclops says that having her in his life, along with Magneto, his own father, and his son, and feeling at home now means everything. She tells him, do you really believe all that? And he says, every single word. We're just going to have to keep a close eye on these two in the future issues for sure. Now we're taken to the Orcus base near the sun. If you kept up with the House of X, Powers of X storyline, this is where the giant Mother Mold Sentinel Maker was stationed until the X-Men went on a kamikaze mission to destroy it and succeeded. That's why there's nothing in the middle of the station's ring anymore. We see a character called Director Devo giving us a brief background of Orcus and how it's the result of brilliant minds coming together to create a final doomsday weapon. He says they have to focus on surviving because if not, then mutants will truly rule the future. We're shown how many Sentinels were killed in the opening battle of the issue, and Karima, the cyborg he's speaking to, tells him, look, mutants and humans are yin and yang. What one side does to the other, it's going to affect both. Basically, their conversation is about that station being built as a last hope for humanity in case mutants eventually took over the world. It'd be their safe haven out in space. And the fact that they created a machine that makes sentinels at that station was bound to cause a response from the mutants, which ended up happening. And that Director Devo is more valuable and important alive because humans need a leader. They're a pack species. If they lose him, their efforts are pointless. Now we're in the Summers residence. Cyclops is talking to his father Corsair. They're overlooking the Earth, and he tells him that when he found out that they can use Krakoan plants to make any place he chooses habitable, he wanted to live somewhere with a view. And we start to see different members of the Summers family interacting with others. We see Vulcan grilling Wolverine a steak. Then we see Cable, Cyclops and Jean Grey's son, talking guns with another mutant and wanting to trade his gun for that one. So he asks Jean Grey for permission, and she's helping to prep dinner for everybody. We see Rachel Summers not really being social, but asking for another drink. Something's definitely troubling her. Finally, dinner's almost ready, and Jean asks Alex Summers, also called Havoc, to bring the gift they have for Corsair. They present him with a Krakoan flower. So a quick fact about Corsair, he's part of a group called the Starjammers. They're kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy in the X-Men world. So he's out in the far reaches of space on his adventures. And Cyclops tells him that the flower will allow Corsair to have immediate access to the island via a portal gate that he'll always only be a short walk away. He tells them all he loves it. And in comes Vulcan being his awkward self because, as he puts it, he grew up without a strong male role model. Which is true, but you'll have to Google Vulcan's history to learn more about that. So here we are later on after dinner's over, and Cyclops is washing the dishes when Corsair comes to offer some help. Cyclops tells him about the way they wash dishes now by spraying a goo that kills all bacteria. Then it evaporates once it's done, leaving the dishes completely clean. But then they get into the serious conversation. Corsair is worried about Scott and the rest of his brothers and children because he thinks that what they're trying to achieve and maintain is dangerous. Cyclops tells him that there's always been and always will be threats to his life and those he cares about. But now he's choosing to live a life worrying less about what wants to kill him and enjoying more time with those who love him. And Corsair gives him a big hug and tells him that he's a great son. This final scene takes place back on the Orcus space station called the Forge. Dr. Gregor, a character from the storyline before this, who lost her husband in the X-Men kamikaze attack, is noticing Director Devo walk into the room. Dr. Gregor is upset with him, and he says she has good reason to be, but that she cannot lose sight of what they're after, that although he's blind, he can still see via infrared, ultraviolet, and tons of other ways, and he saw that she didn't attend her husband's funeral. She tells him there was nothing left of her husband to bury. He was killed detonating a bomb to stop the X-Men's attack. She tells him he lives on in her work, and we see her shooting beams at this tiny object. Director Devo tells her that her husband was the greatest military mind and strategist they had on their team. Dr. Gregor then decides to let him in on a big secret, and she holds up a crystal that she's been firing those beams at and says, "I know how to bring him back." Okay, so this episode's song recommendation is the song Breathe by Prodigy. I just wanted a completely exciting feel to this story. It's the first issue of the new X-Men series. They're a legendary electronic group from England, and it was exciting to start a new chapter in the X-Men universe, and I had a lot of fun reading this issue with this track playing in the background. So take a listen to it, add it to your own musical library, and if you felt another song fit better for you and your reading experience, share it in the comments below. And there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. Remember to like the video below, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Last Comic Book Standing. I'll see you next week.